So what do we get? The first woman chancellor? We get a liar. That's great for women, isn't it? You are landowners, and the only reason you have that land is because one of your ancestors was evil and stole the land off someone else. That's the only reason you have
Probably a black person.
Yeah, probably a black person, yeah. Because, countryside was full of black Africans those days, and we deported them all to Africa. Africa used to be white, full of Eskimos, you know that, don't you? Gas and oil reserves in this country are a gift from God.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Mayor and... I just need to check my microphone. And the Mayor and I, with Lindsay Khan, and the Mayor, Nick Buckley, MBE, episode 57. Please give us a thumbs up, a like, subscribe, most importantly, subscribe, and what else? I can't remember.
Comment.
And comment, if you could as well.
And check out my new book on Amazon. Selling really well. It's getting some good reviews now.
Oh, is it? Good.
As well, yeah.
Because you had that issue with the reviews, didn't you?
Trolls attacked it, calling the basis and white supremacists.
I put a review on, but I wasn't. I also criticised some of the negative reviews.
Yeah.
I don't know if that then stopped my review being put on.
No, it's on now.
Oh, right, okay.
Sometimes a review can go on within an hour or within a couple of days.
Yeah.
I think because you were critical, it must have went through extra AI vetting, and it took a couple of days. But your review's on. Yeah.
Good, thank you. Nick Buckley, MBE, welcome to the Mayor and I.
Thank you.
We covered quite a lot last time. I want to talk about your friend and mine, the Labour Party. Yep. What have they been up to in this past week? Because the list is virtually endless, isn't it, of stupid things they're doing. Rachel Reeves did something in particular which I think is very interesting.
Did she update a CV?
Yes. So I think if you could maybe tell me what your understanding of this is, and I think my final question for you to answer on this one is, why has she not resigned as a result of this? So, because, sorry, no, I'll let you talk first, because I think that's a shocker for me.
I think, for me, this one is a little bit of a non-story. We've got a Chancellor who, like everybody else, has exaggerated and told little lies on her CV. Who hasn't done that? I've got a first class degree from Oxford University. Yeah, it cost me 30 quid online. So we've all done those things.
No, I haven't.
Right. Well, it's embarrassing for her because she's been caught out.
It's also embarrassing for you that you just admitted to our gentle viewers that you've been doing it to your CV.
I've not got a degree, so that was a joke.
Okay. Cool.
So it's embarrassing.
Could you tell our viewers what she actually did? Because they may not know.
My understanding is when she worked for HSBC, she claimed she was an economist. People who work with her say no, she works in the complaints department, and I believe she also works in a branch or something as well.
Well, she claimed she was an economist at the Bank of Scotland.
Yeah. She
in fact worked for the Halifax, which is a subsidiary of the Bank of Scotland, and she worked in the customer relations. Yeah.
So she's exaggerated her job there, but then she went on to work for the Bank of England as an economist.
Yes.
It's embarrassing for her, but out of everything that's going on and everything she's done on her budget, this is just one of is low level for me. I understand why they go on about it because it looks funny as well. You're a lie, you're not really that. I get it, but on the grand scheme of things, this isn't the important one.
And she's kind of doubled down on this by actually changing her LinkedIn profile to show the truth. So rather than just leaving it as it was, she's made it even more obvious by changing her CV on her LinkedIn profile. I think there's two things here for me. Is one, what happened to the good old days when ministers would resign if there was any hint of a scandal around them being untruthful or lying? What happened to those days?
When was the last time that happened?
Oh, it's a long time. I think that was probably the 80s. Probably the 80s, 90s.
The last time I remember someone resigning, but that wasn't, I was going to say over the helicopter with Thatcher. What was it?
Oh,
called?
that was Heseltine.
Heseltine, but that wasn't.
Westland,
that wasn't a scandal. That was him going, "I disagree. I'm resigning on principle."
Yeah.
But anyone in a scandal, I can't think of anybody because it doesn't happen anymore now. And again, it doesn't happen anymore now. It's because our morality as a nation has dropped. So a couple of months ago, we talked about some MP in Stockport, Stockport Way, who was caught in a honey trap.
Yes.
And he didn't resign.
No, he didn't.
And he was, you could claim that honey trap was, could damage national security because I think he sent on.
He was texting people's other MPs' details. To
Yes. And one of them was in the defence ministry. So, so people don't do it anymore now. And that's because the general public don't expect him to resign. You ask the general public about politicians. They're all liars. They're all in it for themselves. They are all corrupt. So when it's proven they are, the general public go, well, I knew all that anyway. So our morality's fallen so low that this is the class of politician we expect. And when we get it, we're not shocked.
It's a tragedy that we've fallen this far, isn't it? And it's a tragedy that the general public accepts this now and feel powerless to do anything about it. I think that's part of it. What did I say the second part? The second part of that is, the bit for me is, didn't she get her job in the Labour Party on the basis of her CV, as one does?
Not necessarily.
Because when it was handed over to Keir Starmer, he said, let me see your CV. Oh, she was an economist at the Bank of Scotland and at the Bank of England. Surely her job was predicated on the fact her CV appeared to show that.
It would have helped, but most appointments within a shadow government and within a government are all political. She brings this many voters on board. For her, she's a woman. She's going to be the first woman chancellor. So what do we get? The first woman chancellor? We get a liar. That's great for women, isn't it? So women only get good jobs now when they're liars. People like that damage the progress of women. So there've been lots of reasons, but one of them would have been she was an economist as well.
Something else that our glorious leader is doing this week, he may have actually finished now. I think he went from here to see Lee, what's the president of China called? I always forget his name. COP29, President Xi. He went to see President Xi after this. He went to COP29, which is climate, it's bollocks. Yes,
a climate emergency bollocks.
Yeah, and it was somewhere really...
Uzbekistan, I think it was.
somewhere crap. Sorry, any Uzbekistan viewers.
Well, the Prime Minister or President of Uzbekistan gave the opening speech, I think, at COP29 and said, our gas and oil reserves in the country are a gift from God.
Good man.
It's like, you don't buy into this crap, do you?
That is fantastic. I didn't read that. I didn't realise it was him saying it. Of course, that's the relevance of it, That's fantastic. So, of course, Starmer had to go to this, as you would expect. I think Lammy went. I'm not quite... Did Lammy go because he's a foreign secretary as well?
I don't know.
So that's two people that had to go.
Yeah.
How many other people from the Labour government do you think travelled with... I mean, because obviously we've got to be careful. The planet is dying. We've got to keep down CO2 emissions and cost and all that. So clearly those two have got to go because they're critical to the COP29. How many other Labour people or entourage do you think went with...
Well, they're going to need some personal assistance.
Yes.
They might need a secretary. They might need someone for social media. So that's about 9. I think they'll probably take, is it about 500 they took?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I saw the headline.
That's exactly right. They should probably take
500.
500 delegates from the government.
Yeah.
And included in there were Lammy and Starmer's, and I didn't even know this existed, Nick, Lammy's and Starmer's videographers. What the frick is that?
I don't forget now, it's not enough now to be a politician, especially when you're a shit politician. You have to have someone doing your PR. You have to have photographers, videos, so they can do all the little clips on YouTube and stuff like that. So we never forget how amazing they are. And the crappier you are, the more you need people. And we're funding these people to do that for them.
But you're right, it was actually 470, basically 500 people travelling to Uzbekistan on our coin, Nick.
Yeah.
Destroying the atmosphere with all the, because they're all flying, aren't they? They're all going. I think Starmer goes around in a private jet now, doesn't he? I think Starmer and Rayner fly around in private jets now. Our glorious leaders. I mean, they're just not even hiding it now, are they? They're not even bothering to hide it. I don't think anybody's tried to justify or explain why they took 500 people to COP29. They're just doing it now. They're doing what the hell they want.
They are. Unfortunately for COP29, this is the last COP, because Trump in January will blow this out the water. Trump has already said he doesn't believe in the climate hoax. He's going to pull out of the Paris climate agreement. They won't be attending COP. And COP, the reason why COP is called COP29 is because this is the 29th year they've met to talk about the climate emergency. And so it's just,
and it's still not happened.
And it's still not happened. Yeah, the emergency still not happened. We're still not underwater. The sun still isn't killing us. It's just a load of rubbish.
This has got to end, this nonsense, surely.
I think Trump is going to end it. And there's many countries in Europe who want to end it. Germany is going under because of the price of electricity. They got rid of all their coal-based power stations and have to buy all of Russia. So they're struggling now. Europe will start changing. We're just out of the loop because we've got a Labour government who believe in all this crap.
But they can't believe in it, Nick, if they're taking 500 people with them. Well, they can do because they're more important than you. So, I see.
So the rich elite will still fly.
Yes.
Don't be an idiot.
They've got to do that.
They're not giving up their stuff.
Yeah.
It'll be us.
Yes. Because they're too important. Because they've got to tell us what to do and how to behave.
Yeah.
They've got to be able to fly around the world in private jets in order to do that. I didn't realise that was the reason.
When I was in Moscow in the 1980s,
you're not going to tell us you're a communist spy now.
It was a trip from school.
I thought it's when you were being trained by the wing. Yeah.
I'm a sleeper agent. All the big roads in the centre of Moscow all had an extra lane that no one was allowed to drive in, because that was for the Politburo. That was for really important people. And that's what this is now. This is a new version of that. We can't go anywhere or do anything, but the elite can have private jets.
Just speaking of that, I was going to talk about this later, but it's very relevant. Did you know that Sadiq Khan, our second favourite Khan, had planned to introduce pay per mile car tax of £2 per mile?
I don't know what the cost, but he's been wanting to do it for a while.
Yeah. Well, something happened and he was stopped from doing it, basically. But that was, again, part of this idea that the plebs can't travel, can they?
No.
Yeah, it's just as the elite. He'll be driving round in his Range Rover with his escort, but everybody else has got to stay at home or take the bus.
And guess who pays for his £2 a mile?
Who?
We will, because it's expenses for him.
He'll expense that, yes.
He'll expense that's fine for him.
Yes.
But the local plumber in his van, £2 a mile.
And the WHO, just talking about climate change, the WHO, the World Health Organization, you know what their plan is to assist with climate change and your health,
Is this the no more eating meat?
No, that's one of the things. No, the latest one is set your house temperature to 18 degrees centigrade. Have you? Do you know what a house is like at 18 degrees centigrade?
It's cold.
It's freezing.
Yeah.
It's freezing. So we've now got to freeze as well. Can't travel anywhere. We've got to stay in our house, but we're freezing in our houses as well because we're trying to save the planet.
Well, the reason why they've said 18 degrees is because they know when we're forced to have heat pumps, you're never going to get above 18 degrees anyway. So get used to it now. So, just moving back to the Labour Party. So,
we've talked about the assisted dying bill. Something quite interesting is happening there, and I don't know if you've been aware of it, but it's maybe not going according to plan, that bill.
Yes. There's many things the Labour Party are doing wrong, and introducing this was wrong, but they've given everyone a free vote on this, so they're not whipping on this.
Yeah.
Even the health secretary said, I'm not voting for it.
Yeah.
And it's very controversial. And the more you talk about it, and the more you see what's happening in other countries, the more people are going, no, I don't want this. I'm not saying it's right that people die in pain. I'm just looking at it going, the state can't run anything competently, and we're going to let them run this. And people say to me online, oh, let's get businesses doing it. It's even worse. You get a private business whose main motivation is profit, and we're going to let them do it. We'll have salespeople who'll be on a bonus everyone they kill. You know, this is just too complicated for it to be rushed through with a couple of months discussion. These discussions need to be over years and years and years.
Do you think it's going to get through then? What's your thought on this one? I mean, I'm hoping not.
I don't think it will, only because the government's not behind it, as in whipping people. And if you've got any doubts on this, which most people have, surely you go, well, at this moment in time, I'm saying no. That doesn't mean I won't vote. Doesn't mean I won't vote yes 2 years from now when we've had a better discussion and someone brings it back. But at this moment in time, I don't think. I hope they don't.
I don't. So Starmer's got a new nickname. So I don't know if you, in previous episodes, we've talked about his various nicknames. So it's 2-tier, free gear, no beer. I think there's another one as well, but I couldn't remember it. No beer Kia, but there's a new one now, Nick, which you may or may not be aware of, which is Farmer Harmer Starmer.
I like that one. Yeah, I saw it a few days ago.
Farmer Harmer Starmer. So what's that all about, Nick? Why are they calling him a Farmer Harmer Starmer?
That's all about this inheritance tax on farmlands, which, well, the march is today in London. Correct. So even though this won't go out till Friday,
it's the 19th today,
yeah. So this is the Tuesday. This won't go out for 3 days. This episode. I was worried this morning when I saw the snow, thinking, are people going to turn up? Because if people don't turn up, the government's going to claim victory. Go, look, no one really cares.
No
but
issue
it seems to have gone well. Their idea is they're looking at farmers and saying to themselves, look at these landowners, and we allow them to pass the farm on to their son or daughter free of charge, where when you die and your children inherit your house, they're going to have to pay something like 40% inheritance tax on it, whatever the figure is. But farms are exempt from this because it's food production. So they think that's unfair. And then now, I think it's 20%, they're going to introduce a special tax, inheritance tax for farmers at 20% if the land's over $1 million or something, which will be the vast majority of farms because land's so expensive in this country. And the farmers have said, no, it means the family farm dies because I'll give it my son. He'll have to go to the bank and get a loan out for 20% to pay off the tax.
And these farms, a lot of these farms are just by virtue of the fact that land has gone up in value. So I have a neighbour in Wales who owns 500 acres. And in the time that I've known him, which now must be getting on for 20 years, that's gone up from like £500 an acre to probably like £5,000 to £10,000 an acre. So by virtue of just him sitting on that and farming, and he's a proper farmer, this guy. He works like an absolute Trojan. He does
7 days a week job. 12-hour days.
I used to have a chat with him in the evening in the summer, and he'd drive over in his little, they drive these 4-wheel scooter things or whatever they're called. And it'd be about 7 or 8 o'clock, and he'd be falling asleep on his. He was so shattered. He'd been up since 5, working all day, and he was literally falling asleep. And that wasn't just my conversation either, Nick. You know what I mean? He was shattered. These guys work hard, but his farm will have gone up. His farm's probably worth 5-10 million quid now. So 20% on that. Forget the £1 million. The reality is that it's 2 million quid.
So someone's got to go out and get a loan for that.
Yeah.
If they get a loan,
Yeah.
but let's say they get the loan and start paying that back. Lots of farms aren't making a good living as it is without putting in extra debt of £2 million on the farm they've got to pay back. So, and then let's say they get a loan for 30, 40 years. And then the farmer dies after 10 and passes it on to his son. He's now got an extra 20% on top of that. Right. So all this will kill small family farms. And people might be thinking, well, who cares? The mines did have jobs and then we closed the mines down. And just because a business isn't productive, it closes down. This is the market. And there's an argument to be made for that. But another argument is, we're in Ireland, we need food. Hitler tried to starve us into surrender in the 40s. And that can happen again because a war is coming. There's always a war coming. We need to be able to feed ourselves as a nation. Farms are really important for that.
And we only at the moment provide 55% of our own food. So we rely on imports.
I think it's less than that now.
Is it?
I've read or wrote something about it the other day. But anyway, it's It's in the maybe the early 50s or 50% of our food, which means we import 50% of our food from countries, and the Ukraine causes a problem because they produce so much wheat.
Yeah. So that's why part of the reason bread went up, wasn't it?
Exactly. We import a lot of fruit and veg from Spain, meat from all over the world, like New Zealand, and we say to ourselves, well, British farmers are expensive. Well, they are expensive because of all the bureaucracy we put on them. Correct. All the legislation, all the things we make them do that won't happen in Spain, won't happen in New Zealand, and then we buy their stuff because it's cheaper. We need to take away the red tape, the bureaucracy. We still need some standards, of course we do, but we keep hampering our farmers and then buying stuff abroad, and then we have to give them subsidies to keep going. Well, no, let's take away the subsidies, but let's take away the red tape as well.
We hardly give them any subsidies anyway. What would you... I think they're given $1.5 billion a year, which is the same as the winter fuel allowance, and is a tenth of what we're sending to Africa for climate change assistance. What would you say to the farmers if you were going to come into power next year, Nick? What would you say? What would you do for them?
Well, I would stop that inheritance tax, only because farmers are important.
Yeah.
But I don't, even if Tories get in next time, I don't think the Tories will change it, because Tories changed nothing last time they came in power. Didn't change any of Blair's things, so they'll just go, we can't afford it. Someone's done the heavy lifting now, we'll stick with that because we're doing a fortune every year. The farmers just need to fight.
Yeah.
The farmers can be powerful when they come together. Look what happened in Holland.
Yeah.
The French farmers...
The French are very militant.
The French change laws all the time.
Yeah.
Do you remember what happened in Sri Lanka 18 months ago?
I think so, yes.
So the Sri Lankan government signed up to net zero and all that rubbish, which meant they couldn't import fertilisers for their farms. So the farms struggled to produce the crops they needed to feed the people. There was food shortages. The people revolted and pulled down the government. Government fell.
No, that's right, yeah.
So that's how important farmers are.
Yeah.
So the farmers won't change the government's mind today going on the streets of London. But this is a campaign they need to carry on. And they need to get more militant, and I think the British public will be behind them. We're not behind some of the activities like Just Stop Oil and stuff like that, but I think we're behind the farmers.
I think we are behind them, and just to give a flavour of that, let's look at who the actors are in this on both sides. So Kevin, you know who Kevin Maguire is? He's a journalist.
Yes,
in the Mirror.
He's a left-wing journalist.
He's a left-wing. He's a as I wrote in a WhatsApp group. I mean, he's an odious little shit.
Yeah.
So he wrote on Twitter, Keir Starmer must win the fight with the tax-dodging landowners. And that gives some insight into the way these idiots think. They just see the farmers as wealthy landowners who are trying to dodge taxes.
Well, that's one of the faux pas from Jeremy Clarkson. So Jeremy Clarkson said he bought his farm because he wants to do shooting on it, and when he dies, his children won't pay any taxes on it. And that happened to be correct. Now, if we've got people, and I'm sure this is happening, if we've got millionaires buying land because they know it's a tax-free inheritance for their children, that's not what this...
No, but how many will be doing that? It'll be a tiny amount.
Of course it's a tiny amount, but if that's a loophole in our tax system, then that's a nut. You crack a nut with a nut cracker. You don't use a sledgehammer on it. So let's close the loophole on that. And that can be, well, when we say farm, we don't mean land. We mean people who are producing food for the nation.
Correct.
That's what we mean by farm.
Yeah.
And we'll close that loophole. So these are just excuses now that people who are in favour of this are saying to try to win some public support, that this is all about tax avoidance and stuff like that. But what it really is about are far left people look at farmers and say to themselves, you're just like the landed gentry of the 19th century. You are landowners. And the only reason you have that land is because one of your ancestors was evil and stole the land off someone else. That's the only reason you have
Probably
this.
a black person.
Yeah, probably a black person, yeah. Because, you know, countryside was full of black Africans those days. And we deported them all to Africa. Africa used to be white, full of Eskimos, you know that, don't you? And this is vindictive. This is them looking at farmers going, you're landed gentry, you're the bourgeoisie, we're the proletariat, and we're trying to right a wrong that happened in history when your ancestors stole all this land.
And here's a quote which seems very appropriate at this point. We are able to carry on a determined offensive against the kulaks, to break their resistance, to eliminate them as a class, and substitute for their output the output of the collective farms and the state farms. Who said that?
Stalin. Yeah.
And that's really what this is, isn't it?
Do you remember what happened in what Stalin did to the Ukraine? So
Remind us.
So that's what he's referencing there. So what happened was Stalin looked at Ukraine, all these farmers, and went, no, not we need to privatize. We need to not privatize. We need to take them all into privatization. Yeah, privatization.
Yeah.
So they took over all these farms. Just like now, Ukraine was the wheat basket of Europe, and it was then. Stalin took over, and the farmers produced nothing, and 6 million Ukrainians starved to death because Stalin interfered with the food supply. Ukrainian people were turned to cannibalism. This is all documented. Families in Ukraine were selling their babies for money. That's how bad the starvation was. It was like biblical proportions. And a few years before, they were the breadbasket of Europe. Same thing happened in Zimbabwe. When the whites pulled out, who run all the farms, Zimbabwe was the breadbasket of Africa. So many years later, 20, 30, 40 years later now, they rely on imports of food from the World Food Programme. Same with South Africa, producing loads of foods, and suddenly this Marxist government interferes with it, killing farmers. They don't produce enough food now. That's what happens when you mess things up.
But it's almost like this government are following the Russian communist playbook. You know what I mean? Political prisoners, destroying the farms, taking the farms off the landowners. All these activities there,
it's because they have the same aim.
Putting more people on the public sector, borrowing money, driving down entrepreneurship. It's unbelievable.
This is how you get to the socialist utopia.
Yeah,
they're following the Marxist playbook.
It is, but it's so transparent. I think that's what really, really shocks me. I mean, just talking about the actors in this. The actor on the other side, which gives you a sense, is Jeremy Clarkson. Yeah. So Jeremy Clarkson went today with the farmers to London.
Yeah, he's the PRQ on this, because I'm not a big fan of. I mean, I have no opinion on Jeremy Clarkson.
Really?
I don't watch any of his shows.
Don't you?
Never have done.
Do you not watch Clarkson's Farm?
No. So I don't watch any of his shows or anything like that. So I'm not a fan of Clarkson. But on the flip side, I don't dislike him either. Right. But I know he's got a big following.
He'll be pleased to know. I'll email him. I follow this. So.
He's got a big following, so he's a great PR win for the farmers. So I just hope they're successful.
The final thing on labour is there's been an increase in unemployment. Are you aware of that?
Yes, there is.
So it's now up to 4.3%, and I think it's the first time it's gone up for a while now.
Yep.
We've now got 1.5 million people looking for work in this country.
Yep.
Unemployment.
Well, no, let me correct that. We've not got 1.5 million people looking for work. We've got 1.5 million people claiming unemployment benefit.
Yes.
Because the vast majority of them are not looking for work.
That's true. There's another group, there's another number, isn't there? Is it like 10 million or something?
Are actually not working.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But this is quite interesting. In the 18 to 24-year-old group, that unemployment percentage is now at nearly 14%. So 14% of 18 to 24-year-olds are not working.
Part of that will be the minimum wage. So,
oh, you mean?
As in, when you're 18, 19, you don't know a lot. You know, you're not very good at anything because, you know, you're at the beginning of adulthood. So if you're looking to employ somebody and an 18-year-old turns up at your work and a 32-year-old turns up who's also got experience of working, the job might be crap, but you know he's got experience of working, turning up on time. Who are you employing? You're employing the 32-year-old. And that's because what you would have to pay the 18-year-old, he's not valued for money when you can pay the same for a 32-year-old. That's why we used to have different wages for younger people. And that wasn't to persecute young people, and that wasn't to say they weren't valuable. It was to say,
actually, to get them into the work.
You're not as good as a 32-year-old, so therefore I'm going to pay you less. And because I'm paying you less, I'm more willing to give you a chance.
Yeah.
And that's your foot on the ladder. But we took that away from people. So now you're not worth full wage. So I'll employ the 32-year-old. Plus our young people are a lot lazier than they used to be as well.
They're not. That's a myth that carries through every generation of the young people. I think young people are the same as any generation. Some are lazy, some are not lazy.
That's not all young people, but I would say we've got more lazy young people. As a nation, we're becoming lazier. So why not young people?
I think we are getting lazier as a
nation. Yeah, we are.
I think what I want to talk about, just talking about young people, the data's just come out from the ONS, which is the Office of National Statistics, on the number of births in 2023. Do you know what percentage of births in 2023 were white British versus other ethnicities? I can't even say ethnicities.
Oh, I'd have to guess. So I think we're about 20% white British in the country, but we're having
only 20% white British.
No, 80% are
80%, sorry.
white British in the UK.
80%, yes.
So, but we're having less children and ethnic minorities. Yes. So let's say 70%.
56%.
Oh, wow.
It's a shocker.
Half.
It's a shocker. And what's shocking, so the reasons for that I don't really know or particularly want to go on. The stat itself is quite staggering. Just only half of the people born in this country, a white country, or what used to be a white country, only half of the births now are white British people.
And the reason for that is we have less children ourselves now, so people are more likely to have one or two kids now. Lots of white people don't have children at all because they're finding it harder and harder to get relationships. And then we look at ethnic minorities. They come from cultures where having larger families is more productive, is more culturally normal, and foreign born ethnic minorities, that's even more so. We're letting millions in, so
white British people in this country, I just want to continue this thing. This I'm going to test your maths in a minute. White British people in 1991 were 94% of the population. 1991, 94% of the population were white British. And it's interesting that, Nick, because I remember that, because I remember in the 80s and 90s. In the 80s I just finished university, I was in London, I was doing things, and I remember most of the people around me were white. I live in Sale at the moment. I'm moving to a place where they have
migrant hotel.
300 illegal immigrants, just to try and improve my
so you fit in.
Yes, I'll fit in, yeah. So when I'm wandering down the street, they'll think I'm just one of them. But when I first moved to Sale, and we've been there nearly 30 years now, it was mainly white people. There's no doubt. I'm not, because I used to joke that I was the only black man in Sale, you know, and I was one of the few brown faces in Sale. Now, if you walk through Sale, you know, every second or third person is black, Chinese, Asian, or whatever it might be. So we were 91% white British in 1991. What percentage do you think we are now in 2023?
About 80%.
Less.
Right, wow, I didn't know we'd gone under 80%.
Yes. We're down to 74% now.
White British?
White British, yeah. The data's just come out this week, I think.
Wow.
So I think that data is from 2023.
Yeah.
So, because obviously there was a year behind.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So we're down to 74% from that. So we've dropped 20% since 1991. I mean, that is quite staggering, don't you think?
Well, it's staggering that 25% of the people of this country are not white British.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, we've looked at the other stats, so we know now that we're only 56% of births at the moment. When I say we, I'm not white British, I don't know what I'm saying, but I consider myself white British. So if we're currently 74%, we're having kids at 56%, where is that going to end up?
Oh, if you look at the graph and project it, it's horrendous, especially at the rate of immigration we've got now. The stats online that by 2050 will be a minority in the UK.
Yeah. Well, I think just those two stats alone say we are heading without doubt for 56% white British in a relatively short time.
Yep.
That's what it's saying. It's got to, hasn't it? Because if the births are only 56%, that's going to be the maximum level you're going to reach if there's more, especially if there's more and more migrants coming, and then that percentage will change as well. That 56% will drop as well. So, the minimum point it's going to get to is 56% white British.
Oh, it can fall lower than that.
Yeah. Foreign-born workers are now, I think you probably know these, 7 million people in this country, from 5 million in 2014, and 1.4 million of those have come in since 2019, which I think we know is the time when it started to accelerate. And interestingly, those foreign workers are not EU workers.
Right.
So EU workers have dropped by 230,000 since 2019 to 2.2 million. I know you think there's more than that, don't you? Because the stats, when they actually ask them to declare it.
But that's workers. That won't include children and those things.
Yeah.
For the EU.
And the number of British-born people in work now is 26.4 million, which is down nearly 1 million since 2019. So those stats, I think I know what they're saying to you, but what conclusion do you draw from those, which are they're quite staggering facts, don't you think?
Yeah. The first thing we need to discuss as a country is what future do we see for ourselves? Do we want to preserve what we've got as in a white British country? Or do we not? There's arguments made on both sides here.
Yeah.
So we need, as a country, to have that discussion. And then we can decide which way we're going to go. Because if we want to remain a white British country, then we need to end immigration. We need to look at a lot of deportation. And then we need to get British people to man up and start doing the jobs and creating businesses and creating wealth in this country, which we've done before. If the answer is, well, do you know what? We don't necessarily want to be a white British country anymore. We want to be a rich country. That's our main priority. In which case then, well, we will end up bringing in more immigrants who'll have more children, and at some point we'll cross the threshold and we will not be a white British country anymore. Then we will be a hotel, we will be an airport lounge where anyone from the world can come here for as long as they want, for as short as they want, and that will be the end of England, it will be the end of Great Britain. But only the people of this country can decide that.
I don't think a lot of British people, and I consider myself British, Nick, of course I do, because I was born in this country. Yeah. My mum's English, I've been raised as an Englishman, I think like an Englishman. Yeah. So, and there's an interesting discussion, isn't there? Is being British, I don't know if you've heard this before, is being British software or hardware? And the hardware means if you're white, you're a British person, but the software means if you think like a British man, if you're raised as a British man, if culturally you're an Englishman, then is that being British? Which is kind of what you're saying here, isn't it, basically? I think the issue we've got here is, it's not so much that the population is increasing, it is increasing too much, there's too many people coming in, but the people who are coming in are not being integrated. Their software is not being changed, is it?
No.
My dad was from Trinidad. He was raised as an Englishman in Trinidad because it was a British colony. He only spoke English. All his studies were, is it JCB or whatever? Not J, that's the drug, but JMB or whatever it's called. So he only studied English, subjects basically, and he came to England as a fully formed Englishman. He was more English than most of the Englishmen I knew. So his software was certainly that of an Englishman. My software is that of an Englishman, even though I'm half brown. But the problem we've got with all these people coming in, their software is not being changed. It's not even being looked at, is it?
There's many problems here. So I think it probably is a hardware and software issue. I think there's both things there. Different migrants, depending who they are and where they come from, fit in better or worse than other migrants.
Yeah.
So when we had the Caribbeans, they integrated easier than, let's say, immigrants from Pakistan, because first of all, Caribbeans drank alcohol.
Yes.
So they could socialise easier with the white people living in the pub.
Rum was always very popular.
Yeah. They had no food restrictions such as halal, so we could eat the same foods, and we'd go to the same restaurants or we'd have the same burgers. Again, Pakistanis had an extra barrier because it was halal.
Caribbean food is not that great though.
No, it's not, but it wouldn't stop us.
No offence to any of our Caribbean viewers, by the way.
But it wasn't a barrier to integration. So some people do fit in better, but then it goes down to the personal level of why are you here? So some people, well, everyone comes here for a better life. My dad came here for a better life. That's a given. The myth that people come here because they want to improve England doesn't exist. People don't come here, they come here to improve their own lives. But as we relaxed immigration, people came here for a better life, but wanted to bring their culture, their traditions, and have a little piece of the homeland in the UK. That's when we ghettoise certain parts of our large cities. All immigrants bring problems. Some bring more problems and some bring smaller problems, but every immigrant will bring problems until they are assimilated into the culture. And we've never done that. Some assimilate better than others and have done it themselves, but no immigrant has ever turned up in a country where we've said to them, right, our expectations of you is this: you will only speak English, you will, these are cultural norms, we will not make exceptions for your culture, for your religion. You can practice all that in a comfort of your own home, absolutely, we respect all that, but don't expect exceptions because this is our country, we've never had that. We just told people get on with it, and in fact get on with it, and we think your culture is wonderful, so practice it. So we gave them all the wrong lessons, and then decades down the road we're looking at that going, this isn't working out. Well, it's hard to blame immigrants when they did exactly what we told them to do.
Something we talked about last week was the Cresta Court Hotel. I don't want to talk about it because we've talked quite a lot about it. But one of the things we mentioned was that during the interrogation of Conor Rand, who is a great name, by the way,
Conor Rand.
I know, it's a great name, but unfortunately I said he looks like a 14-year-old. Conor Rand was asked about their criminal records, and he said, they've been vetted, and they've said that they're
not criminals.
They're not criminals. And so one of the protesters said, well, anybody can say.
Yeah.
He said, well, they could have made that up. They could be lying.
Yeah.
And Conor Rand said, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So what shocked me this week, and I think I texted you and said, I can't believe this. I've found out this week, and again, I don't think the general public is aware of that. So we have categorised our immigrants, haven't we? We've got illegal immigrants, which are these guys coming over in boats, all other mechanisms. And then we have our legal immigrants who have visas and all that sort of jazz, And we're saying the reason illegal immigrants are a problem, when it's true, we don't know who the hell they are, whether they've got criminal records, whether they're murderers, whatever. And there's quite a few cases where people have come in a boat, they found out, there's a guy who was hanging around pretending to be 14, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he was a murderer or something, and a rapist, and he was caught or whatever. But we've assumed that they're not vetted. This because they're getting illegally, they're welcomed and all that sort of jazz. But they could be anybody, and those 300 guys in Cresta Court are examples of that. We don't know who the hell they are, where they've come from, what they've done, whatever. But we've always assumed, haven't we, that the legal migrants are fully vetted, haven't we? And I think most of the public assume that. The legal migrants are fantastic, bring new culture, whatever. They bring, Notting Hill Gate Carnival or whatever, and they're all good people, and they're going to contribute to it. So we know they're not contributing to the economy now. We've now found out that actually they don't contribute to the economy. They're a net drain on our tax. What I found out this week is they're not vetted. So what happens is they have to fill in a visa application form, and on that visa application form it says words to the effect of, have you ever murdered anybody? And if they write no, it's not checked. Did you know that, Nick?
I guess that because the numbers we allow in legal, the amount of work and hours that would take to vet every one of them, emailing Lithuania, getting in from... It's almost impossible because we're letting that many in that it'll be self-vetting.
It is self-vetting.
Yeah.
And violent foreign offenders can self-declare they have not committed a serious crime and secure a visa. And the only time they're exposed is after they have committed a crime. Because there's a system called ACRO, which is in existence, it's there, which interacts with all the European or whatever it might be and finds out whether you're an actual criminal. So in our imagination we think if they've let somebody in they must be okay. It's not the case.
No.
Is that not a massive issue or a massive revelation for everybody?
It will be for some of our listeners, but I knew that was going to be the case because of the sheer numbers. The department we would need to vet every one of them, billions and billions and billions. We need tens of thousands of people.
So we need to stop letting people in.
We do.
If we can't actually tell whether they're safe or not, why the frick are we letting them in?
Well, even if they are safe, why are we letting them in? I want an end to mass migration. I want an end to it. And then we need to stand on our own feet. We need to then employ our own people. We need to train up our own people. There's like you said before, there's almost 10 million people in this country, adult of working age, who are not working.
Yes, yeah.
They're the people we need to be concentrating on.
Yeah.
But we're just going for the short-termism all the time, which is let more people in, let more people in.
But we don't know who we're letting in.
We don't know who.
It's not just the illegal immigrants. We don't know in the legal immigrants. So Romania. So we let 700 Romanians in.
Yep.
In the last 3 years, those 700 Romanians have been identified as criminals, but they've been let in.
Yeah.
I've got some names here that I can't pronounce. A guy called Podlazik killed a man in Poland. It only emerged after he raped and robbed a woman in Leicester. Jacob Baskus, I'm probably pronouncing these wrong so everybody knows him, killed and dismembered his girlfriend in the UK. he had killed a man in Lithuania. This was only found out after he'd killed and did it. I've got another one here. Jack Stas violently attacked his neighbour in Boston, was arrested, checked him up on this thing. He'd beaten someone to death in Lithuania with his bare hands. So this is just 3 examples. There's many, many more of legal immigrants who've come here with visas, who actually have horrific criminal records, and we don't know.
I'm glad you read those names out, because all those men are white.
Oh, sorry, yes, they're all white.
And I don't want any of them here. This isn't a black or brown thing.
Yes.
I don't want them here.
Yeah,
I don't want migrants here. Yeah. It's got nothing to do with the colour of the migrants.
Correct.
And we keep importing. I mean, why do we allow these people in the country? Because look, let's look at Romania. You know, it's criminals. Even when you contact these countries, they can buy passports in Romania. Romania is I believe, one of the easiest places to get a false passport from.
Yes.
So you can't trust.
I was thinking of getting one, actually.
Well, there we go. You can't trust these organisations in those countries. We just let anyone in here. Again, it's that hotel mentality. It's a hotel, let anyone come.
Yeah, but we're letting people into the hotel carrying knives and guns. Effective. I mean, I'm using the analogy basically. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of hotels in dangerous places have scanners, don't they? We're not scanning anybody when they're coming in. We don't know who
our safety. The public safety in this country stopped being a priority many decades ago. I can't pinpoint when it happened, but everything that happens last few decades shows us our safety is not a priority to any government.
Are you aware of a guy called Charlie Veitch?
Yes, I've been on his channel a few times.
Now he goes into Manchester a lot and films, and virtually I've been watching his videos. I quite like him actually. He puts himself in quite a lot of danger a lot of the time. Every time he goes into Manchester, there's a nutter there, causing trouble, threatening people, whatever. He finds them within seconds of getting into Manchester.
Piccadilly Gardens, there's always Piccadilly Gardens.
Yeah. And you're seeing good, God-fearing, law-abiding English folks walking past these people all the time. And every now and then, like a hyena, they snatch one of them and do something to them or whatever. That's what's happening now. We are. I think you use the wildebeest example.
Yeah. Lions are prowling, waiting to pick us off.
The lions are out there prowling, but it's all of them. It's not just the illegal migrants. It's the legal ones as well. The Somalian we talked about last week in London. They're all over the place. Yeah. Our people are in danger, aren't they? Our children, our daughters, our sons.
Piccadilly Gardens is the most dangerous place in Greater Manchester. Never go to Piccadilly Gardens. You know, avoid it. Don't walk through it if you have to. It's a dangerous place. When I first came across Charlie Veitch on YouTube, my first initial thing was, he's an idiot. He's causing trouble. He's provoking stuff. But then you've got to realise he may be provoking a little bit, but he's just showing you what can happen if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time and say the wrong thing. Yeah. So that could be your mum, that could be your child. Correct. It just turns out it's a 6'6" man who can handle himself a bit better. Yeah. But he's not causing the trouble. He's just having conversations with people who shouldn't be in the country, who are violent, who are quick to violence, who are quick to gang mentality. Yeah. He got attacked in the Arndale Centre a year ago by 5-6 young black lads, all school age. Nothing happened to them. They all got caught eventually, but like a pack of hyenas on him. But that could have been your son in the food hall in the Arndale Centre. No.
Did some people come and help him?
The security were trying to stop him as well, but they were trying to kill him. Yeah. But this is our town centre. Yeah. The city centres are all like this.
Yeah. That's why people don't go to the town centre anymore, I guess. But I was shocked because I didn't realise that legal immigrants are not vetted. Sweden, as we know, has stopped migration now. I think we've talked about this because it is out of control in Sweden. But they're currently there's a hell of a lot of issues at the moment because there's a video, I don't know if you've seen it, of a Syrian asylum seeker pushing a 91-year-old woman down the stairs
to rob her,
ripping off So he rolls down the stairs on top of her, pulls off her jewellery, and then basically scarpers.
Yeah.
So the Swedish it's kind of moved their hostility towards immigrants to a whole new level now, because this is like a just horrific thing.
Yeah.
The cultural approach of these people to the Swedish is just horrific, basically.
Well, things like that happen in London every day. The only difference is it's not caught on CCTV, and the victim is at 91. The age is shocking there, 91.
Yeah. Little old lady.
Exactly.
Basically. And it's interesting, this, isn't it? Because whenever you raise this with your left-wing progressives, they always say things like, yeah, but English people do stuff like this as well. But the answer to that is, that's right. We've got enough to deal with the English people that do this stuff. We don't want a whole raft of other people who are doing it as well in our country, do we? Exactly.
And the stats tell us that foreigners are twice as likely to commit crime than British-born people. So that's ONS stats told us that a couple of months ago. So stats now.
Yeah.
They're twice as likely to commit crime than British-born people. And they're right, we have English people, British people who are scumbags.
Yeah.
We need to deal with them.
Correct. Yeah.
We don't need to import more scumbags.
Yeah.
We don't have a scumbag shortage problem in the UK. You know, we don't need to import more to keep our police busy.
Yeah.
Let's stop importing scumbags, and then we can deal with our own scumbags.
Yeah, and maybe if we stop importing them, we can then deal with our own.
Yeah.
But at the moment, we can't deal with any of it.
It's too many.
Yeah. It's just... this stuff, Matt Goodwin, or whatever it's called, he needs to get this stuff out there, because it's just... I think people don't know.
They don't know.
People don't know this. There is a shift. I think you and I have talked about this. Trump is now looking to deport 20 million migrants. Justin Trudeau has just announced a 3-year freeze on accepting migrants. Have you heard that?
I have. That's big news.
That is massive news.
Because he is the biggest woke fool in the world as a leader.
Yeah.
For him to do that, he knows. He's doing that for one reason. He knows he's going to be out of office soon. He's hoping this will save him.
Yeah. Because Canada, I think I'm right, Canada's got a smaller population than the UK, hasn't it?
Yeah.
But last year, whilst we imported 700,000 migrants they imported 1.2 million.
Yeah.
It must be bloody chaos over there.
Yeah.
It must be absolute bloody chaos over there. So I think this is his last ditch attempt. He's realised it's, and he's described bad actors involved in this to making this happen. He's the bad actor.
Yeah.
He's the bad actor, but he's now desperately turning on this. So I think Trudeau's made that decision because Trump is now leading the way. And we're now seeing this across Europe, aren't we, as well?
I don't think he's done it because of Trump.
No.
He's done it because he's looking
Is that a coincidence then?
I think that's a coincidence. I think he's looking at the state of things going, I'm going to lose the next election on this. Look at the stats, look at the crime. So I'm not sure when the next Canadian election is, but he's trying to give him time to say, I'm against immigration, I'm clamping down on it. He's hoping to go down that route. But it's changing across it's changing across the West. We've had enough. Politicians are realising now, if they don't change with us, they're going to be out of office. You've got Le Pen, you've got the ADF in Germany, you've got Finland, you've got Sweden, you've got Holland, you've got Maloney in Italy, we've got the forming of Reform UK here with 5 MPs. Things are changing and they're trying to get ahead of the curve and say, I'm going to be your man. I allowed it all in, but I'm going to stop it now.
Well, the question I and our viewers want to ask you then is, when is it going to start changing here?
Not under this government. So not under Labour. We will see what happens at the next government.
Are you saying no change for 5 years?
They won't last 5 years.
Right,
so they won't last 5 years. But there'll be no change under this government. No change.
Right.
It will be the next government. And it depends who that is. Will it be Tories or will Reform have overtaken them by them? I don't know. A good indication will be the local elections in May. We'll see then how well Reform are doing, because Tories seem to be gaining some of their votes back. So if Reform don't do well at the local elections, that'll be a huge disappointment. because Tories, if the Tories get back in again, they may change some stuff because the promise but there won't be what we want. There just won't be as crap as Labour, and we don't want that. So
I would ask our gentle viewers, please get the message out there. Do not vote for the Uni Party. Do not vote for Labour. Do not vote for Conservatives. Vote for Reform.
Reform is the vehicle at the moment I would suggest people vote for.
Yeah.
And the people who say to me, yeah, but this, but that, but yeah, they're not perfect.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Let's use Reform to go part way down the road for the journey.
Yes.
Once we realise Reform aren't going where we want them to go, let's get off the bus.
Correct.
And there'll be someone else to take us the rest of the way. But we need to use Reform now.
I think you're right. I think we have to use Reform as the bulkheads to break down this crap non-democratic system we have, basically. Because I think if they break through that bulkhead, we then will restore democracy to this country. That's the point.
Hopefully,
but they may not be. You're right. They may not be the exact answer, but they'll be 1,000 times better than what we have at the moment.
They will take us part of the way, if not all the way. So let's get closer to where we want to go.
And then I'd like to finish now on the sports section. Because I've decided we're not appealing. I think you showed me some stats at the weekend. We had a chat about the channel, and we're not appealing to the 18 to 24-year-olds apparently.
We're not.
So I think we should have a little sports, a manly section talking about sports and things that young people are interested in. So, and I know you're obsessed with sport, and you're always wanted to, and I have to stop you talking about it. But I'd like to talk about the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight.
Yep.
Oh, you're aware of it?
I'm aware of it.
Oh,
not watched it yet.
I'm quite shocked.
I've not watched it yet.
I'm quite shocked. And I think the reason I want to talk about it, no, seriously though, Nick, more our theme is because I think there is still some innate goodness in people, basically. So Jake Paul, for our gentle viewers who may not be aware of this, but young people, if any young people, you'll know, we're talking, and obviously we're into all young people and all that sort of stuff. I know you're into rap and things like that, Nick. Jake Paul is a YouTuber, very, very famous YouTuber, and one of the first really famous YouTubers. But for some reason, he's still relatively young, he's about 25, 26. He decided to become a boxer, professional boxer, and he uses it as a vehicle to earn money, basically. He challenged Mike Tyson, who is probably the greatest boxer who ever lived, in my opinion, to a fight. But Mike Tyson, of course, now is 58 years old. He's had multiple health issues, and he's not been very well, basically, but he was a phenomenal boxer in his time. So Jake Paul, who's this young brash 27-year-old, challenged this old man Mike Tyson to a boxing match, and the result was, I think, I think people thought Tyson might do something, but I watched the fight live, and he's clearly knackered. His legs were thin. He was, and you basically got the spectacle of a young fit man beating an old knackered man, basically. And of course he won the fight. Now, what's fascinated me about this is the reaction of people, both young and old, to this. And I think unanimously, everybody, despite the fact Tyson won, everybody is on Tyson's side. Everybody is basically calling out Jake Paul, calling him a bully. Proper professional boxers, real professional boxers are now saying, I want to fight you, because they want to beat the crap out of him, to teach him a lesson. And that's kind of restored my faith in humanity, that it's not all about brash showmanship, bullshit or whatever, that people are intrinsically good.
Yes, I've got a different perspective on it. That won't upset you.
Why did I know that would be the case?
I saw this as the classic underdog fight, hero, the things we read from history, David and Goliath. Mike Tyson, again, greatest heavyweight ever to exist, 58 years old. I don't think until you get in your 50s do you realise how messed up your body is by the time you get to your 50s. Aches, pains, I've got sore back. Every time I get off the settee, I go, what's that noise? It was me. I go, as I get up. I bend down now using my knees, because if I bend down using my back, I go, and to get into the ring with a 27-year-old who again, it's not a proper boxer, but I've been training as a boxer. I had fights.
It's fit. There's no doubt.
Yeah, no,
about it. It's very
absolutely,
fit, yeah.
absolutely. Been trained very high, high level. Is one of those. I went to bed that night saying, "God, I hope Mike Tyson wins."
So did I.
It's that underdog story. It's that hero. I don't know why. I think that's faulty, that one.
I just kicked away.
Nothing to do with that. I'm going to have to. Yeah, it's that underdog story. I think that is really what sold this, and we all was rooting for one man, and it turns out age beat him. I don't think Jake Paul beat him. Age beat him.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. But I just thought, you know, Jake Paul was doing it for publicity, for money, or whatever it would be, and I thought people would be. I think Jake Paul hoped that people would say, "What a great guy, he's beaten Mike Tyson," but I don't think that's been the reaction at all.
No.
And the idea now that some of these younger professional boxers do you want me to switch it on and off at the back?
No. There's a cough again.
Are actually now offering to fight Jake Paul is reminiscent of how Tyson started Mike Tyson started his career, because he fought, I can't remember the name of
Larry Holmes.
Larry Holmes beat Muhammad Ali when he was at his weakest and whatever, badly beaten. Mike Tyson as a young man saw that and vowed he would get revenge for, and then he came through as a boxer and took on Larry Holmes and beat him, and as he beat him he said, "I'm doing this for Muhammad Ali," and I thought that was one of the most beautiful stories in boxing. And I think this, you know, there's a repeat of that happening now. I think
Jake Paul did this for the money, purely for the money, because there's no way he could win this fight, because if he loses to Tyson, how can you lose to a 58-year-old man? If you beat Tyson, you beat a 58-year-old. I think he did it purely for the money. And from what I know of Jake Paul, I don't know that much at all, he likes controversy. It's all about poking the bear, and I think that's why he did it. Mike Tyson did it probably for two reasons. 20 million is nice, and I think he did it because once you're a warrior, and I think he thought, like Rocky does in Rocky films.
No, I think he believes he could. He thought
I've got one last chance here.
Yeah.
One last chance.
So we'll end on that. I believe it to be a true expression of human care and tenderness. You're just cynically thinking it's about money.
No, I think it's a really good example of masculinity, of overcoming the odds, of giving it one more shot, of trying again, of, the chance of me beating a 27-year-old slim, but you know what, I'm going to give it a go. Because unless we have challenges, unless we push ourselves, what's the point of living? And I think Tyson went, I've got an opportunity here. How good I am at 58. And I think it was a challenge he wanted to keep himself alive. Otherwise, what's the point of living?
That's a beautiful sentiment, Nick. And on that inspirational moment, we'll end this edition of The Mayor and I. Very
Thank
nice
you.
to see you.